Hello, my name's Ted Jordan and I'm speaking to you from our grotto in the garden of our property in the Mangaroa Valley in New Zealand. It's near Upper Hutt in New Zealand, of course. It's Ash Wednesday 2011. You may notice the smudge on my forehead. I'd like to talk to you about our work in Divine Mercy. 16 years ago I was introduced to Divine Mercy by a man called John Canavan from Melbourne. Purely by accident. I had no intentions of getting involved, but my wife was sick and I had to go to a meeting that she had been asked to attend. And I got conned onto a committee to organise the first Divine Mercy convention for New Zealand that was going to be held in Wellington. And this was about 1994, I think. We did that conference and we had some very notable speakers there, including Father Seraphim Mekalinko. And I was very impressed. But at the end of it all, I thought to myself, that's my major job for the Catholic Church completed. And when I eventually got to the pearly gates, St. Peter would be so proud of me and pat me on the head and say, well done. And I was prepared to go back into obscurity and vanish. As not to be. I had a phone call a little while later, a few weeks later in fact. A man in Auckland heard that we'd organised this convention, the Divine Mercy Convention, and asked if I would organise a visit by Father Yozo of Medjugorje. I didn't know who Father Yozo was. I hadn't heard of Medjugorje. I learned very quickly. And we organised the visit and the event for Father Yozo, which also was very successful. And then we were asked to organise a Eucharistic convention, which would come down from Auckland and be repeated in Wellington. We did that. That was 16 years ago. Since then we have had 16 annual Eucharistic conventions in Wellington, and we have had many notable visitors and speakers. Our work in Divine Mercy, though, has always been paramount, and the emphasis on Divine Mercy has been to the fore in everything we have done. We give talks in churches, we have show videos and documentaries on Divine Mercy, and we have even made our own documentary, which we hope to take to Auckland next week to show to several churches up there. We have also established an apostolate, which we've called the Disciples of Mercy. The intention of that discipleship, or that apostolate, is to pray for the sick and dying. Our Lord made many promises in his talks and visitations to Sister Faustina about praying the chaplet of Divine Mercy for the sick and dying. And we need to publicise those promises so that people can take full advantage of them, and this is what we hope to do. Our work with Divine Mercy has been quite interesting over the years, and we've had many experiences, some of which I'd like to share with you. Our eldest son John has often accompanied us when we give our talks, and he would start the session with a talk, then we'd show a documentary, and then I'd come in afterwards and finish off the theme and talk a bit more. On one occasion we were doing a talk on a Sunday afternoon in a local church, and the parish priest asked us if we would come down to the church for the morning mass and just promote the talk and the presentation that we were doing after the mass. And we of course agreed to that. And being as a lot of young people in that particular parish, we thought it very appropriate if our son John did that session after mass. The priest duly called him up when mass was over But John just sat there. He didn't move. And I started to get a bit concerned, because it seemed to be a long time before John moved from his seat to go up to the front of the church, to the pulpit. However, after what seemed to be an eternity, which was probably only a matter of 20 or 30 seconds, he did get up out of his seat and move to the pulpit and promote the presentation that we were going to do that afternoon. Afterwards I asked him, I said, "Well, John, didn't you hear Father asked you to come up?" He said, yes, I did." He said, "But I couldn't move." And I thought, well, maybe there was something wrong with the lad, but there wasn't. He said, "No, I was surrounded by a black cloud." He said, "I was absolutely immobilized and I could not move." He said, "Then all of a sudden a little nun appeared and she pushed the cloud aside." And he said, "I was able to get up and go to the pulpit and talk about the presentation we were going to do." And he said, "You know, Faustina's not very big, is she?" And I thought that was rather marvellous. Clearly Faustina came to our assistance, or particularly to John's assistance, to move that black cloud, which was probably a demonic black cloud, because the devil does not like divine mercy. And he didn't want us to promote divine mercy or even do that presentation that afternoon. So Sister Faustina came to our assistance on that occasion. There have been many other occasions when things have happened that we've wondered why they've happened or what were the cause of such things. This very grotto that we have here, of course, has a story behind it. We decided we'd like to have a grotto in our garden, and just by chance I saw an article in an Australian gardening magazine called Burke's Backyard or something like that, and this article described how to build a grotto. First you get your own old iron bath, stand it on its end, concrete it in, and then you build around it. And this is exactly what we have done. And some Tongan friends of mine did the stonework around the bath, and that was fine. We had a grotto, but we did not have a statue of our Blessed Mother. We tried to get a statue all sorts of places, drew a blank. We telephoned various churches that were closing, all sorts of different places. Even a friend of ours who was a pilot said he would bring one from Germany for us, but it would cost about $5,000. Money we didn't have. And then one night my wife Eileen had a dream, and in this dream our Blessed Mother told her that as soon as she was saying, or we were saying, the rosary every day like we were supposed to, she would get us our statue. We did say the rosary, but not necessarily every day, maybe twice a week. And my wife Eileen was always in the Legion of Mary, so she was faithful in that respect to the rosary. But we started saying the rosary every day immediately. Within 10 days we had a phone call, quite out of the blue, from a sister. And she simply said to us, "You're looking for a statue of our Blessed Mother. We have one. We're moving our convent to Auckland. Would you like to have a look at it?" So we went to the convent that was closing, and the statue was there, and it was beautiful. But we expected the worst. We thought, well, Sister would want a lot of money for the statue. And we asked her, "How much do you want, Sister? Make us an offer, make us a donation." "How much, Sister?" $50. So our Blessed Mother was purchased for $50, and she's been in our grotto, in our garden, ever since, and that was some 12, 13 years now. and look how she fits. The grotto couldn't have been tailor-made better for her. I'd like to explain to you how the Disciples of Mercy will work. It's a very simple concept. We're trying just to link up people who want prayers said, either for themselves or their loved ones or someone they know that's sick and in need of prayer, with those people who are able and willing to pray for them. What we propose is that parishes that want to be involved, and we ask you, of course, to make sure that you get on side and have the permission of the parish priest, would have a poster advertising the fact that prayers will be said for the sick and dying. But the important part of that poster would be the names of coordinators with their phone numbers. So people would be able to contact a coordinator, request their prayers, and the coordinator would then send that message out and that request out to the people who are doing the praying. And anyone can pray, absolutely anyone. If you're able to pray at all, you can be a disciple of mercy. The prayers can be said anywhere, of course, in your own home, in a church, at adoration, and if by request you are asked to go to the bedside of a sick or dying person, that can be done too, but only, and this is important, only at the request of the person involved, the sick or dying person, or their immediate family. Otherwise, you pray in your own home, your church, or chapel. We also propose that leaflets would be available to be taken away from the church, explaining how the apostolate work, how the promises of divine mercy work themselves. The fact that our Lord said to Faustina, pray, pray for the sick, pray for the dying, and that how he will stand by that person, that dying person, as a just judge. Even if only one chaplet were ever said by him or for him. And that is important. The object of this apostolate is to keep people out of hell, and that's the bottom line. And as I tell people somewhat flippantly, you may still have a bit of digging to do, but you have hope of getting to heaven. And that's the big thing. We want people in heaven. Our Lord wants everyone in heaven with him. And we want the prayers and the promises that our Lord has given us to be used and to be utilized by all concerned, so that our Lord will have us in heaven with him. Even the biggest sinner, our Lord said, has the right to be in heaven, provided, of course, he either repents or at least has some prayers said for him. And that is what it's all about. And that's where we want this apostolate to go. It's very simple. Pray for sinners, pray for the sick, pray for the dying. Thank you.